So yeah, it was about 2 months ago when I saw this image, and I'd retired. I'd retired from this debate. You know, I'd walked away. I was happy. I was very content with my research, everything that I'd done, and very content to just sit back, be a flat earther, no problem. And then, you know, as you do, just generally mulling around, looking on Facebook, and this image popped up, and it was such a beautiful image, and I recognised obviously instantly it was Blackpool Tower, and you know, and just everything about this image just said to me, analyze it, analyze it, analyze it. I mean, you could just see these mountains in the background, and it was like, yeah, this is going to shut the Globers up now. This image is going to be the one. It's definitely going to shut the Globers up, because there's no denying what you can see in this image. It's very clear what you're seeing. And then I went and I did the calculations on it, and then I went and I did a little bit of investigation, and I found out that, well, it's got drop on it, right, and a substantial amount of drop too. And I couldn't explain it because there doesn't appear to be any refraction in the image. And you know, if it had been sinking, then you would also have seen sinking on Blackpool Tower and the other objects in the image. So I couldn't use that excuse. It couldn't be sinking. So so it kind of left only one route for me.
So he says he can't explain it. There's no explanation except for the fact he already has explained it. In fact, he's done better. He's demonstrated that. He's debunked all of these types of observations. And so has other people. Not just him, but I mean, it just surprised me. He's did it himself and sees what happens to background objects. They sink every time through a density gradient. Every time, not just sometimes, every time. But now all of a sudden he can't come up with any explanation? That's horse shit. Or amnesia. You tell me.
Here, whether or not you believe in photons or what have you, I'm not really bothered. I tend to subscribe to the idea that we just see something, we don't have something beaming into our eyes. I don't believe that. But whatever the effect is, it absolutely lowers it in the background. The density lowers that object in the background. And Miles Davis, who's put all those videos out of Trepane Law, saying that there's a mountain in the distance and it's lower in perspective than it should be, and I've lined myself up at 210 meters and 210 meters to this tower in the foreground, and then in the background we have this mountain that's lower than it should be. Well, here's your answer on a flat plane, Miles Davis. Here's your answer. Here's every Glober's answer when they turn around and say that you can use these type of observations. Let me bring up his observation. This will be on here. So let's go back to.
So that was Ranty's observation through a density gradient that he created, a consistent density gradient, demonstrating how objects in the background sink relative to objects in the foreground. He shows that the objects in the foreground don't really change, but the objects in the background sink. Every time, if it's a consistent gradient, every time the objects in the distance, maybe a little more or a little less, but every time they sink. He proved it. He actually debunked all the observations and even says it. All the long distance mountains sinking compared to local towers and such, Miles Davis observations and all them, he has debunked them all, demonstrated it. And then he wants to turn over to the globe based on one of these observations? That's horseshit. He says he can't find any explanation on a flat earth, yet he has provided that explanation and demonstrated it thoroughly. So, I don't know. You tell me.